that was too long and making a lot of expectation when there isn't much. I don't think public administration is qualified for construction sector. Well, thanks, Butcher. Thanks the program director and the president of the South African Council for Project and Construction Management Professions and the president of the Council of the Built Environment, Mr. Nxesi, the presidents and the registrars of all the councils within the built environment who are here today, together with their executives, and the presidents and the executive officers of the voluntary associations of the SACMP. It confuses me with the SACP, by the way. I'm the deputy chairperson of the SACP. And the senior government officials and the senior management of the state entities, the representatives of labor, the captains of industry, registered persons under the SACP-CMP, and the delegates, and the members of the academic community and students who are our leaders of tomorrow, and the members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by officially opening this 6th Project and Construction Management Professions Conference. It has been wonderful to witness the growth of the SACP-CMP, both in size, in depth and scope, always at the forefront of the major issues which are confronting this particular sector. Whilst we are celebrating that size, that depth, and the scope, there's a fundamental question we must ask ourselves. How are we in terms of quality? That's a major question, because we might grow, but are we growing qualitatively? And I think this is a question which must be asked to everybody in the built environment. So the Department of Public Works shares the following key priorities as our national imperatives. We must intensify the war against fraud and corruption. We must stimulate economic activity and create the jobs. And in case of Department of Public Works and the property management trade entity, we must manage the state assets to create value, to reduce costs, to generate income, to build skills which reflect the demographics of the country, and to create employment and empowerment opportunities. And I was saying when we had a chat before this with the president and some of the officers, we must interrogate this. Empowerment must not mean we're dropping the standards. Because in terms of the value chain, my apologies, in terms of the whole value chain here in construction, if something happens in any building, it's going to be followed all the way where it started. And if somewhere standards were compromised, you can be caught even if it's after 20 years. And it will be very costly for you as a person, as a professional, for your company. But sometimes it's very costly to our people because people die. And it leads to lots of litigation. So in our quest to empower, we must not compromise the standards. So the Department of Public Works, through the Provincial Department of Public Works and the expanded Public Works program, we have started responding to these challenges and all the DPW entities. And I know we share the vision here. And President Cyril Ramaphosa stated during his State of the Nation address, and let me quote, "Infrastructure investment is key to our efforts to grow the economy, to create jobs and empower small businesses and provide services to all the people." Close quote. This sentiment, or these sentiments, were repeated in the recently announced stimulus package, the Job Summit, and the massively successful South African Investment Conference. And this will have widespread implications for the country, for the investment, for growth, for jobs, for development and transformation. But I must add, provided we implement. Because announcements are not necessarily implementation. It depends on how we implement. So we're called upon, all of us, to be very serious, to remove all these bureaucratic processes which are frustrating the people. And I've always said, what you can implement in private sector within 2 or 3 weeks, having done all your plans and everything, it can take you 3 years in government. People talking about plans, strategic, this and that, and so on, but no implementation. And later on they will tell you, no, we've abandoned, we've revised that, and so on. That's, if we're tied to those bureaucratic chains, there's very little we're going to improve. We can have a lot of money, we can have lots of investment, but if we don't deal with the bureaucracy, we're not going to be able to be up to task as we are required. And President Ramaphosa also stated that, and I quote again, young South Africans will be moved to the center of the economic agenda, unquote. So the SACP-CMP also shares this vision with the President and the DPW by integrating young people into its projects, especially those with a transformation agenda. And reading from the conference, or for the program of the conference, I was impressed by the breadth of the topics to be covered. Health and safety, which SACMP has championed. Although I note the fatal accidents have declined from around 100 per annum in 2014, when the agreement was signed with the Department of Labor, there were still 74 fatalities in 2017. So we still have a long way to go. I see you tackle the skills development and transformation in the construction industry, as well as the gender perspectives on the sector. What impressed me particularly is the forward-looking nature of the program, anticipating future trends and the impact of the fourth industrial revolution. As a, by the way, very interesting, I recently attended a property conference or management conference 3 weeks ago in the United States, in Miami. But what was very interesting for me for the whole week, central to the debates, was the issue of health and safety. That was very central, more than all the other topics, with different experts from different universities, from different practitioners, and from all over the world. The issue of health and safety was very central. And I think this matter must be taken very seriously, given what has been happening in our own space, both in the public and the private sector. Some weeks ago, I attended the 10th South African Council for the Quantity Surveying Profession, which was also interrogating the implications of the current technological changes. They flagged that original built environment professions has developed to address the challenges of the first industrial revolution. And it was crucial to interrogate the implications of the new technologies for these professions and the built environment generally. And I commend them. And to you, a recent article by Mr. Peter Vale, the director of the Johannesburg Institute for Advanced Studies and a professor of humanities at UJ, which was entitled, "The Fourth Industrial Revolution's Biggest Impact Will Be on People." He argues that the focus has been almost exclusively on new projects, on machinery and industrial processes, and very little on what it all means for the people. He raises a number of questions, including the thought that technical solutions on their own will not overcome intense political, social, and economic challenges. This is important to keep it in front of our minds. This is very, very important. Whilst we're talking this technical language, we must know that at the end, it comes down to people. And I think one of the officials said it in the meeting we had, and said, in whatever we're doing, we seem not to be thinking about our people. We're thinking about the profits which we're making, we get excited about the new technology and so on, and we don't ask the question, what is the impact to our people? Let me remind you that in 2018, the State of the Nation address, and His Excellency President of South Africa again, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, gave the new impetus to the implementation of the National Development Plan and directed that, and I quote, "This year we'll be initiating the measures to set the country on the new path of growth, employment, and transformation. We'll do this by getting social partners in our country to collaborate in building a social compact on which we will create the drivers of economic recovery. We have to build further on the collaboration with business and labor to restore confidence and prevent an investment downgrade. Tough decisions have to be made to close our fiscal gap, to stabilize our debt, to restore our state-owned entities to health. At the center of our national agenda in 2018 is the creation of jobs, especially for the youth," end quote. So the outcomes of the investment conference last week were spectacular. We all know that 290 billion in commitments, that is money in the bank, and further 400 billion in pledges, that's general statements of intent to invest. So we're beginning but flesh on the bones of this much heralded new dawn. Let me illustrate from my own department and our participation in Operation Pakistan, the oceans economy, focusing on upgrading the small harbors, which brings massive opportunities, not only for registered professionals in the built environment, as well as contracted, but also investors and communities with the support of government. Another important initiative relates to the building of the government precincts in the small rural towns and townships, bringing government services closer to the people. So as government departments, we often work in silos. This weakness has also been addressed by the President, who calls for greater coordination across government, particularly in relation to infrastructure build and maintenance. And then I would expect the role of the Presidential Infrastructure Coordinating Commission, called the PICC, to be strengthened. Let me make an example. Around Skukuni, there's a dam there, long complete. But the communities are not yet enjoying the water from that particular dam. And the reason is very simple. Dam built by the National Department, But there seems to be a dispute about who should give the tender for piping into the local communities. That's just a reflection of lack of coordination between national, province, and the local authorities. We're dealing with a project. Another example, in East London, those of you who are who know the East London airport, as you're about to land, you can see that there's a lot of informal settlement around that. And it's not supposed to be there. People just occupy it. But a number of departments are involved. Public Works as the owner of the land, human settlement nationally, human settlement in the province. The local government of Buffalo City is also involved. The HDA, which is an entity of human settlement. COCTA is also involved. But you find that people in dealing with that particular problem are coming with different solutions, but they're not coming together. It's only now that we have said, you need to come to, this is the coordination which we are talking about. We like doing things in silos as government. You find that differences or different approaches are not just between spheres of government, but even amongst the departments in the same sphere of government. Public Works is doing something else, water is doing something else, human settlement is doing some, when they are supposed to come together and do the same thing. I mean, when we're talking about human settlements, that's why we moved away from housing department. A human settlement must have all the elements, which then suggest that right from the beginning, the planning should be done by a number of those departments. It can't be done separately. And I think this is the issue which we'll have to deal with. So even on our approach down as a department, on how we deal with the built environment professions, it must be a coordinated approach. We can't be giving different messages to the different professions. And I think CBE is very important in terms of its coordinating function. Other people do not see any role of the CBE, and I think they are making a mistake. That coordinating function amongst the built environment professionals is very, very important. So this issue of coordination, we can say a lot about it. But as long as we deal with these things individually, we're going nowhere. On a further positive note, the previous SACP-CMP conferences have taken resolutions aimed at growing, developing, and transforming the professions, and by extension, the entire built environment sector. Some of these important resolutions have found traction and been implemented over years. Examples include arresting perpetual candidacy so that black and female graduates upgrade to professional status within their prescribed timeframes through the use of the mentors who are registered professionals in their categories of registration. You see, sometimes I become angry when I talk about this part, because there are gatekeepers in some of the professions, not allowing the young and the black to be able to be developed so that they can also get their professional status. But on the other side, there are people who want to come here and think that they are not going to work hard, they are just going to be certificated. Everybody must be ready to help, but everybody must be ready to learn. It can't be accusations and counter-accusations of black and white 23 years after democracy, when we're supposed to be all of us making things work. The young black professionals must be ready to work hard to qualify. And to qualify, it's very hard. You are going to get frustrations. But equally, the experienced professionals must be ready to mentor these people. So there are obligations on both sides. All of us have obligations for the future of our country. I'll just leave it there. I think, but it's very, very important that we don't have an attitude to the people who are experienced. Regardless of how they got the experience, the fact of the matter, they have the experience. Let's utilize that experience. But let's also recognize those who were disadvantaged by the previous system. All of us must be ready to work together instead of omunye khomba omunye esweni, omunye vikiliso lakhe. That's what you call finger pointing. And part of the examples are including attracting the youth into these professions, promoting the use of the professional construction mentors and construction mentors in the public and private sector to ensure that contracting companies owned by Black, female, youth, and people with disability are fully supported, not just to benefit personally, but to ensure that projects are delivered safely, on time, within budget, and to spec. How to explain a police station which is supposed to be finished within 1.5 years? It's behind by almost 2-3 years. How to explain that? How to explain a deviation? This was supposed project to be 100 million. It ends up being 170 million. Are we going to keep quiet because it's done by a Black person? How do you explain those things? It's not within budget. Sometimes you get this project, it's so beautiful, it's done, it's a school, or it's a police station, but hardly three months after it was handed over, things are falling apart. Is that what we want? So these are the issues which we must deal with. Once we are empowering the people, they must know that we can't compromise on issues of quality, time, budget, and within the spec, that quality which we needed. So with regard to arresting the phenomenon of perpetual candidates, the SACP-CMP has been providing with the grant funding by the Sector Education and Training Authority for 100 learners for a period of 1 year. So the Construction Sector Education and Training Authority, the SETA, also provided grant funding to support 250 learners for a period of 1 year and across the programs. The SACP-CMP is proud to showcase the first successful beneficiary of the joint venture between the local government, SETA, and the SACP-CMP. When the 37-year-old Nontobeko Mvelase or Mwelase failed to achieve the professional registration with the SACP-CMP, she found her dreams flying out of the window. As a deputy head of the projects at the eThekwini municipality, Ms. Mwelase had to find alternative means to reaching her goals. Her mentor, Anton Robson, also registered professional, the CPM, assisted Ms. Mwelase to achieve the registration as a professional. These are the kinds of the success stories that we need to embrace and to encourage. And I'm challenging all of you. I'm challenging all of you. In your company or wherever you're working, can't you go and pick up? Go as a person, not being told by the association, just out of your own conscience, that I'm going to pick up just one young Black graduate and mentor this person to come to the right level. Can't you do that? Can't you speak to your conscience and say, one person, it's a huge contribution to the country. When you sit, when you retire, when you look back, you'd say, I'd empowered at least one young woman. Can't you do that? Secondly, I'm pleased to announce that the SACP CMP is already working with the newly established Professional Services Branch at the Department of Public Works on the Structured Candidacy Program for Young Professionals, an initiative that will contribute towards the ongoing department's effort to build technical capacity. I think it could be prudent for the SACMP, CMP, the CBE, and other affected entities within the Public Works family, together with the National Department of Public Works, to promote the use of professional construction mentors and construction mentors to mentor emerging CIDB registered contractors so that they are capacitated to safely deliver the world-class infrastructure on time, within budget, and to agreed quality standards, even during their development phases. Aye, Sabelo. That's the best kept secret. No, she's trying to influence that I must be stopped because of my timing. No, don't worry, Chief. Even if I come late there's something which they call in Parliament a 3-line whip, where everybody must be there whenever you're passing legislation. That's what I'm rushing for, but I will finish my talk nicely. So that's the best kept secret on the construction mentorship should be included in the national agenda of government. There are 2 sessions of the conference that are dealing with the construction mentorship, and the more can be done to ensure that it must contribute positively to skills development and transform the construction sector. Furthermore, we have to start asking the hard questions around project success in both government and private sector. More often than not, we witness project failures and massive project cost overruns in the development of the infrastructure in South Africa. What are the solutions? Are we using registered professionals to ensure that as a country, we safely deliver world-class projects on time, and I've been saying within budget and to acceptable and agreed quality standards? I should mention that from the side of Public Works, we are establishing a high-performance center, drawn from the experienced professionals, exactly to oversee our projects and other areas of risks. We've said it goes live now in November. So we are aware of the value of the professionals, and that any attempt to run reconstruction and property development without them is a false economy. We've approached the CBE. We've approached a number of, including the professionals themselves. SACMP was there. We've approached the engineers, we've approached the architects, and so on. We want the high-level people who are going to form a team seconded to us, 6 months to a year. It might be more, we might extend it, but to come and deal with our projects which are collapsing, including the issue of the buildings which are not complying and so on, our projects which are behind and so on. They are not going to replace those people. They are going to do an assessment and point to those who are working on those what has to be done. And it's going to be very hard. I'm going to be very hard to my own officials. So we've approached this, we're putting a package together, we're working with the CBE. There are other initiatives. By the way, I must share this. I think I must share this. Somebody said, Minister, if you have professionals who do not know what they are doing in construction, once we realize that a client is vulnerable, we skin you alive. And then the other one said, we'll milk you until you dry, because we can see that you don't know what you're doing. That's why we need the right professionals to be able to monitor those whom we are giving the jobs. And we're very clear, we can't do without the private sector. But we also need the highly skilled one in order to police the others. So that's what I'm trying to do now. So there are initiatives of the SACP-CMP that have been recommended with the clear actions by the previous conferences, some of which have not been fully implemented. A case in point is the Presidential Forum consisting of all presidents and executive directors of the voluntary associations recognized by the SACP-CMP. And I'm pleased to see that this forum will discuss the progress in the panel discussions. Further, I wish to indicate that the Presidential Forum has been formally endorsed by the Ministry of Public Works, as some of you might have witnessed at its launch at the conference in 2016. As stated in the ANC policy document mentioned earlier, and I quote, "No political democracy can survive and flourish if the majority of its people remain in poverty, without the land, without their basic needs being met, and without tangible prospects for better life. Attacking poverty and deprivation will therefore be the first priority of the democratic government," unquote. You know what? Some people think that this thing of poverty, this thing of the land, it's for some lunatics who do not understand what is going on. Even if you are in a gated community, very expensive estate, but the fact of the matter, those who are poor can easily rise against all of us. They will come to those gated communities. The level of crime socially is associated with poverty. It's also in our interest, all of us, even if you are well-to-do, to ensure that we attack this poverty. I don't want to go to the land issue. It's a very, very emotive issue. If some people were able to develop the land, they were helped, subsidized by the apartheid government. Some people, they remember, they were the victims of the forced removals from their own land, which they know. Why should we think that the country can go forward with that, whilst other people do not have the land? How do you? But addressing that, we must do it in a responsible way, where people must have access to the land, but not in a reckless way. By the way, people, when they think about the land, they must not just think about agriculture. It is a very serious urban issue, the issue of the land. That's why you have squatter camps. It's a human settlement issue. In the peri-urban areas, the issue of the land is a very serious matter. But it must be addressed, and the President has said, not to undermine food security. But those who have the land, how they got it, before we even go there, must also be ready to open up. Before I conclude, let me thank all the valued stakeholders that support and contribute towards the programs and the activities of the SACs, of the SACP-CMP, which plays such an important role in protecting the public interest. And I'm always prepared to support you in raising your frustrations, concerns, and constructive proposals with the relevant government structures, including the MINMEC, which is the Minister and the MECs of Public Works, the PICC, the Cabinet, especially where you are able to ensure that both the private and the public sector are singing from the same hymn, the same hymn sheet. I know that the architects, when we're having a meeting, they've raised serious issues about how they think that their profession is being undermined, where we're just employing anybody to come and do what is supposed to be done by the architects. It would be remiss of me if, before ending, I were not to add my own tribute to the role performed by the former CEO, uNomvula Rakoloti. Very vibrant lady, very forceful. things that can grab any minister by the scruffle of the neck and put him or her in a forum. And I don't want to use the word arrogant. Let me say assertive. I said, no, Minister, these are your people, you have to come. There's no other way. And why are you a minister then? Whom are you talking to? So I'm talking to a minister. No, I'm talking to a minister. So what? For as long as I've been in public works, her name has been synonymous with the SACP CMP and much more on the transformation of the sector, the need for proper training and recognition of the built environment professionals, her passion for health and safety, and the well-being of the construction workers, her sheer energy. You see, that's the energy which I call arrogance. Her enthusiasm and ability to get things done through that arrogance, often with little resources to hand. I have to commend her service to the built environment, and I take solace in the fact that she will not be lost to the sector. And if she's here, I want to say to Nomvula, I wish you well in your new endeavors. And I'm sure I haven't seen the last of you. We'll still interact in a number of forums. And let me wish all the delegates and participants well during this deliberation in the conference. I thank you.